So if you're a shy person and want to learn how to become the best networker and talk to anyone you can meet, then I decided to make this video for you. Even if you're not a shy person, you could still benefit from it. But from my perspective, I like sharing points that I've been at and I've seen success in it, and I just share those. So if you're in the same position, you just do the same things I did and you'll get the same results, right? So now, why did I decide to make this video, right? So I used to be the shyest person you could think of. Growing up, when we would go with my parents to people's home, my dad was kind of tall and he was kind of big, and I was like this tiny kid. I would always like hide behind his leg or behind his back. I was afraid of saying hi to people. I was afraid of people talking to me. I didn't know what to say, and all these fears around it. And even when I went to school, when I came to America when I was 15, I was born and raised in Iran, and when we came here when I was 15, I used to be that kid that in the class never talked, never said anything, was super quiet. Most of the kids in the class didn't even know I existed, and I was kind of like that kid that you wonder, okay, what is going on in that person's world, right? So that was me. And I went from that to building a group of people, now over 30-40 people, actively over 20 that come to the mastermind groups that I've created. Overall, like over 100 people probably collectively have shown up, and I'm always networking. I've expanded my network from barely knowing anyone to now not just knowing people in Houston, but also different cities and countries all over the world, right? And now I could walk to any store, any place, and I don't have a problem talking to people, get their contact info, meeting up with them, and so on and so forth. And I'll tell you, most of my success comes from me being able to network. The fact that I'm in a relationship came from the fact that I was able to network. The fact that I haven't had a job for over 2 years and have been able to sustain my business to this day is because of the power of networking. So and learning how to go fast, it came from networking, because I network with a lot of people, and a lot of them have read books, went through courses, seminars, successful people, all sorts of people across all sorts of range, and I'm always learning, asking from them, hey, what worked for you? What do you suggest? And so on and so forth. So I'm going to share as much as I remember, because 5-6 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I used to be super shy, but I went through a process of, different steps I took to become better at talking to people and networking and so forth, right? So I remember the first thing I did, and how I got to this point. Obviously, I watched YouTube videos, but there was one course I took, and this guy, he was like a dating coach or someone, and mainly he was talking about how to talk to girls. But I was like, wait a minute, the points he's talking about, the concepts he's talking about, I can apply that to talking to anyone, not just girls. And I've applied the same points from that to other areas. So back when I was in high school, so I guess maybe 5-6 years ago is when I started, but 4 or 5 years ago is when I really started getting better. First thing I did, and I was the type of person I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. Like, I couldn't even make eye contact with myself because I was like that shy, right? It just doesn't even make sense. And I could barely make eye contact with people. So I remember when I was in school, I used to, from between the periods, when like the bell would ring and I had to go from one class to the next, I remember some kids were on one side of the hallway, and then the other kids were, on the other side coming towards me. And I remember at first, I would just make eye contact with the people that were walking towards me. And initially, I would make eye contact. As soon as they would make eye contact with me, I would like look away. And my goal was to get to a point where I could make eye contact and have them break eye contact first. So this is where I started. Before I even learning how to talk to people, all that, it first started with like eye contact. And I remember the first few days I would make eye contact, then they would look at me, I would look away. But then I was like, okay, now what happens if I let them look at me a little bit longer and then look away? So then, immediately looking away went to I would look at them for half a second and then look away, eventually to a second, and ultimately in a month or two of doing that every day, I got to a point where I could look at the people coming towards me, make eye contact with them until they looked away. They got uncomfortable. And there was some of those guys were those alpha guys or whatever, and they would look at me and we would pass each other and they would turn around and we would still look at each other and then they would look away. And once I got to that point, then one advice the guy gave me, the guy who I took the course from, he was to start practice. He said being able to talk to anyone is a muscle, right? And wanting to talk at networking events and all that stuff, it's just talking to people. He said it's a muscle, just like working out at the gym. You have to always exercise that muscle. So how I practiced, he said, whenever you go to a grocery store or a restaurant or something like that, mostly grocery store, and the person who's checking you out, they're bored, they're not talking to anyone, he was just ask them, hey, how's everything going? And so I just started with when I would go to the grocery store, either by myself, with my mom, friends, anyone, I would just ask the person, hey, how's your day going? And eventually I got to a point where I'm like, hey, how's it going? It's been a busy day, huh? And I would just say that, and it's crazy how much they open up because no one's talking to them. But just me being friendly, and initially obviously I was awkward, but guess what? I'm not gonna see that person again. And if I do see them again, guess what? I do the same thing. Hey, how's it going? And then when I didn't have anything else to say, I would just be like, thanks, have a good one, or whatever, So first I started just practicing that. And then I started watching YouTube videos and different contents on how to open a conversation or how to keep a conversation going and so forth. And then I learned tips along the way. Now I'm not going to go into every single tip I ever learned. I'm just hitting general points of what I did. So I don't know what level of shyness you're at, but if you're super shy, that's where you could start. But if you're the type that could be okay, at least I could talk to some people, or when someone talks to me and they're friendly with me, then I don't mind talking and all that stuff. Then what you could do is you could go download the Meetup app, MEETUP, Meetup, I think it's one word, and just go to meetups. There's volleyball meetups. There's a meetup called introverts meetup or shy people meetup or something like that. So literally shy people have a meetup where they meet each other. So it's no one expects you to know anything, and it's okay to be awkward and all that stuff. And I used to be awkward most of my life. And when I first started going to these meetups, I remember telling the person, hey, how's it going? And then I would be like, hey, just to be honest with you, I'm not really good at talking. When you talk to other people, what do you normally talk about? How can I get better at talking? And you would see they would try to make conversation, and then I would just pay attention to what they did, how they got me to open up, and then eventually I got better and better. And then I got to a point where I could go to shy people and then help them feel welcome, help them open up, and so forth. But literally that's what I would do. And still to this day, at grocery stores, I talk to people. When I go to restaurants, fast food places like Chipotle or anything, I talk to the person, hey, how's your day going? Busy day, huh? You've been working all day, blah, blah. And I just talk. I don't even expect any outcome. But you just keep that muscle going, so that when you do meet someone that you want to get their info and see value in connecting, now you've already built up that muscle of just being able to just say, hey, how's it going? At least that. And you'll be surprised, it gets much easier. It's the same as working out. If you've never worked out in your life, just show up to the gym and just pick up a dumbbell and do any exercise that you've seen other people do or that you know. And just do that over and over. Eventually you'll be like, hey, let me look up another exercise. Then you might look up a YouTube video of different exercises, and then along the way you'll get better. The first thing is just showing up. But I'm telling you, if you figure out how to really understand networking and become good at networking, it'll open doors to so many things you never thought of. And when I first started networking and talking to people, I had no goal. I had no business. I had no intention of what I was going to get out of it. I literally had no goal. But I was like, let me develop this skill in case I need it at some point. Which then when I started building a business, that's one of the main things, being able to talk to people. So those are the main things, like literally simplest way to put it. And obviously in terms of eye contact, when you're walking at a mall, like go to a mall and people who are walking the other side, just look at them. And then when they look at you, hold it as long as you can. If the longest is like for a millisecond and you look away, that's fine. You just keep practice. With the next person that comes, do that. With the next person. Every 5 minutes, practice with someone. Because I used to have this thought of, oh, if I just looked at this person and looked away, the person behind him saw me do that, so maybe it's awkward. I used to have all this backtrack, even though it doesn't matter. But then you could just start there. But I'm telling you, it works. Like now I could talk to anyone, whether in person or online. I don't mind. I could hop on video calls, like anything. Like if you're watching, you can even reach out to me. I promise you, I could hop on a call with you, no problem, and make you feel welcome if you're not used to talking and whatnot. So if you want to practice even just connecting, you can even connect with me if you want. All my stuff is in the description, Facebook and all that. But yeah, just wanted to make this video because, you know, this is something, these tips, I had to pay a lot of money to find these tips, but it helped me a lot. And it's really simple. You see, life is simple. One of my mentors said, if it's simple, it's life. The mind complicates it, right? So I'm arriving at my next location, so leave in the comment networking if you watched it this far. I always like to see who watched it all the way. And yeah, comment your thoughts down below, what you got out of it, if it was helpful, if it wasn't helpful, and if you need to connect, just let me know in the comments. But yeah, see you at the next one. Bye.